So let me share my new slide with you. It is the Word document that contains an information about opportunity cost. So I've just shared this graph with you guys, and I'm gonna copy that graph from the Excel sheet and gonna paste over here just to give you an idea that what an indifference curve was about. ठीक है, तो already I've explained two graphs which were self-made graphs. Like I've made those graphs upon the paper to give you an idea about indifference curve, and that indifference curve which I draw upon the paper gives you a three-dimensional concept of an indifference curve. So on x-axis, we plotted units of good x, and on y-axis we plotted units of good y, and upon the z-axis we plotted units of utility function. So we connected indifference curve 1, which was based upon income A, with the utility function UA, just to conclude that on every combination of indifference curve 1, level of satisfaction of the consumer remains same. But when consumers' income increases from IA to IB, the indifference curve that we can see in this graph, it will be shifted upward. It will be quite parallel to the original indifference curve. I mean, the new indifference curve will be quite parallel to the previous or current indifference curve. So that indifference curve will show a higher level of satisfaction since an income of the consumer is increased. Upon the new indifference curve, the utility function will be new, and on the new indifference curve, the level of satisfaction will be new. Since an income of new income IB is greater than the old income which was IA, therefore indifference curve, the new indifference curve is higher as compared to the old indifference curve. Therefore, the new utility function UB, it will be more superior to the old utility function, and upon the new utility function, we can say that a consumer is enjoying new level of satisfaction, which is KB, and the new level of satisfaction is relatively higher as compared to the old level of satisfaction. So, and if we look at the z-axis, upon the z-axis, we will be having 2 points. One would be UA, which is closer to origin, and the other one will be UB, which will be away from the origin, meaning that the UB utility function is greater than or superior to utility function A, which is old utility function. So this was the discussion that we carried out in the last class. I've just given you the recap, and now I'm gonna begin my new content, which is based upon opportunity cost. And I guess we have already read in the earlier lectures that what is we meant by opportunity cost. We all know that to get something, we forgo its best alternate. This is an opportunity cost of getting something. For instance, if we get an extra unit of good X and we forgo units of good Y, this shows that good Y is an opportunity cost for getting 1 unit of good X. This is simplified definition written over here, but let me give you an example that if somebody wants to get admission into UMT and into program of BS International Relation, so at one time, if the student is able to achieve or get enrolled into BSIR in UMT, he would have to sacrifice all other options for starting up BSIR from any other university if it is compared with getting opportunity of BSIR from UMT or passing out BSIR from UMT. So starting up BSIR from UMT would be an opportunity, and for this, all other options that we could have achieved instead of opting this opportunity, now we are not able to get those opportunities. Therefore, all such opportunities that we have forgone, these would be the best alternate that we are leaving to get admission into BSIR in UMT. This would be an opportunity, and whatever we have left is the opportunity cost for availing BSIR's degree programs opportunity from UMT. So, we have sacrificed best alternates for getting enrolled into BSIR from UMT. So, uh, this is basically an opportunity cost. And we know that there are several types of opportunity cost. In literature, we find that uh, uh, opportunity cost has three types. The one is called increasing opportunity cost, the other is called constant opportunity cost, and the last one is called as decreasing opportunity cost. So how can we differentiate among these three types? uh, if I could give you an idea of marginal rate of substitution of good x for good y, from there you can relate that particular idea with an opportunity cost. तो आपको काफी clearly पता चल जाएगा कि within MRS what we were doing basically, we were getting 1 unit of x. Let me show you from this graph, from this schedule, we can see that we are getting 1 unit of good x and we are leaving some units of good y. So what is opportunity cost? To get something, we have to sacrifice something. If I could highlight this particular ratio, within this ratio, you could see that we are getting 1 unit of x, but we are leaving 4 units of y. So to get something, like we are getting 1 unit of x, we have to sacrifice something. Here we are sacrificing 4 units of y. So this is an idea of opportunity cost, and at the same time we call it as marginal rate of substitution. So a rate at which we are converting units of y into unit of x. So rate of exchange is also called as marginal rate of substitution. So rate of substitution or rate of exchange are the same things, right? Are the same, words for same meaning. I mean, they are two different words for the same meaning. So since the rate at which substitution is taking place is changing over time, initially we left 4 units of y to get 1 unit of x, then we left 3 units of y to get 1 unit of x, then we left 2 units of y to get 1 unit of x, and finally we were leaving 1 unit of y to get 1 unit of x. So at the same, if we look at the same table, and I've highlighted some values or some ratios. From these ratios we can see that initially we were leaving 4 units of y to get 1 unit of x, then 3 units of y to get 1 unit of x, then we were leaving 2 units of y to get 1 unit of x, and finally 1 unit of y we are leaving to get 1 unit of x. So each time we are facing concept of opportunity cost, but the rate at which we are facing opportunity cost is that it is continuously falling in absolute terms, right? But if we see the negative values, so fall, the coefficient size, if it is squeezing in negative number, this shows that the value is increasing. But I'm talking in absolute terms. Initially we were leaving 4 units, then 3, then 2, then 1, meaning that the cost that we are facing is decreasing over time. So when an opportunity cost is decreasing, when opportunity cost is falling, meaning that we are facing decreasing opportunity cost. So in simplified words, if I could conclude my words, that I would say that if we are getting 1 unit of X, for each time we are leaving less and less units of Y. So the concept we are facing is decreasing opportunity cost. So through MRS, I've given you an idea of decreasing opportunity cost. Since uh, the, the opportunity cost is decreasing, therefore, when we plot it upon the graph, the resultant curve will always be in convex shape. What is convex shape? If you take up a circle and draw a straight line or diagonal line that will dissect the entire circle into two different parts, the lower part of the circle will be called as convex shape, and we all know that the upper part of the circle will be called as concave shaped curve. And the straight line, we know that it is a straight line. So the graph, when to plot a convex shaped graph, when to plot a concave shaped graph, and when to plot a straight line graph, this depends upon the concept what is or rate of substitution which is applying over here, or the marginal rate of substitution which is applying over here. Or you could also say that the type of opportunity cost that we are incurring during the time when we are looking to plot the curve. So when rate of substitution is continuously falling, then opportunity cost is said to be decreasing opportunity cost. But when rate of substitution remains the same, at that time the resultant curve will always be straight line shaped, because we are facing constant opportunity cost, meaning that each time we are sacrificing units of Y but at same rate. But the moment when we are leaving the units of Y, and each time rate of substitution is increasing, like initially we were leaving 4 units of Y, then we would be leaving 5 units of Y, then 6 units of Y, and then 7 units of Y. For each time we would see the rate of substitution is increasing. Within this concept, we are facing actually increasing opportunity cost. And when we plot the increasing opportunity cost in a graph paper, the resultant curve will always in concave shape. So remember these words into your mind, that whenever we are facing decreasing opportunity cost and we want to plot it upon the graph paper, the resultant curve, the curve which will be come out, the output of the graph will provide us a convex shaped curve, I mean the lower part of the circle. Whenever we would plot the constant opportunity cost upon the graph paper, the resultant curve will always be in straight line. But the moment when we would like to plot an increasing opportunity cost on the graph paper, the resultant curve will always be in concave shape. Let me share the exact definitions of these concepts with you on this document. Okay, the idea is about opportunity cost. We have already read the definition, and now look at the schedule. It is exactly the same schedule that we have already discussed, that you could see that income of the consumer is remaining the same. Within this income, we have an option that we can buy 1 unit of X along with 18 units of Y, then 2 units of X along with 13 units of Y, and so on. So you could see that the difference between the units of y, initially these were -5, then -3, then -2, -3, -2, and then finally -1. How these will be obtained? Let me share it with you over here just to make you and understand what happened actually. What we have done, we have subtracted 18 from 13, right? So resultantly, the difference between, let me do one case with you so that the remaining case should be understood that what is happening. Okay, let me add one more step over here. What is delta y actually? Over here, it is basically the difference between y2 and y1, right? So the difference between y2 and y1 is 13 minus 18. So you could see that. So now this could give you an idea that how we have obtained 5 minus 5 and how we have obtained plus 1, right? So this can provide you the idea that how the different values have obtained over here. So now you can find out different values by your own after following these steps for next values. And from this table, we can see that we are getting 1 unit of x and we are leaving different units of y. So the concept whereby adding 1 unit of x and leaving different units of y will reveal an idea of opportunity cost. So to get something, we forgo its best alternate. This is opportunity cost of getting something. For instance, if we get an extra unit of good X and we forgo units of Y, this shows that good Y is an opportunity cost for getting 1 unit of good X. So after completing the idea of opportunity cost, now let's move towards increasing opportunity cost, which is the type of opportunity cost. Arrangement of the type does not matter whether you start from constant or maybe decreasing or from increasing, it does not matter. We must know about the concept. Starting from which type is not an important point. Let me begin with increasing opportunity cost. What we basically do within increasing opportunity cost, we get 1 unit of X and we leave more and more units of Y, as I've explained earlier. So let me read out the definition. To get an extra unit of good X, this line, the highlighted text, is very much important. If we keep on leaving more and more units of good Y, for what? To get an extra unit of good X. So a process whereby we are getting 1 unit of X, but for getting 1 unit of X, we are leaving more and more units of good Y. Therefore, we call this process as increasing opportunity cost. In case of increasing opportunity cost, in this line, we would like to let you know that if we plot actually increasing opportunity cost upon a graph paper, the resultant curve will always be in concave shape, right? So let me show you a schedule. So if you look at the schedule, you could see that initially we were leaving 1 unit of Y to get 1 unit of X. Then we were leaving 2 units of Y to get 1 unit of X. Then 3 units of Y to get 1 unit of X. Then 4 units of Y to get 1 unit of X. And in the final step, we were leaving 5 units of Y to get 1 unit of X. This basically explains that for getting 1 unit of X, we are leaving more and more units of Y. Therefore, this type of opportunity cost is basically increasing opportunity cost. And let me copy these values from here just to make you understand how a resultant curve will be concave in shape. Let me show you over here. Let me share with you Excel sheet within which we have already read the cost of the graph of indifference curve, right? So in case of indifference curve, if we would have been facing constant opportunity, I mean increasing opportunity cost, the resultant curve will always be what is this? Okay, if it would have been 17, then 1, 18, 2, 17, 3, 15, then 12, then 8, and then 3. Okay? So if you look at the graph now, the shape of indifference curve has changed. Now it has changed to concave shape. I'm in the upper part of the circle. So this type of shape is called as increasing opportunity cost. Let me add it, the concept, I mean the title over here. It is a case of increasing opportunity cost, right? Normally the profit curves, normally the revenue curves, normally the output graphs behave like concave shaped curves. Let me copy this graph from here and let me paste it over the Word file, and let me show you the Word file again. And now you could see this graph. Can you see this concave shaped graph? Yes. So this is a concave shaped graph, and concave shaped graph we will always face in case of increasing opportunity cost. Let me start with decreasing opportunity cost. What is decreasing opportunity cost? Decreasing opportunity cost is the definition would remain same, but uh, we will make slight modifications. We would make little modifications into the statement. The initial point is same, the initial words are same as in case of increasing opportunity cost, but here let us read that to get an extra unit of good X, the other part of the statement is very much important. This will basically clear us the idea about decreasing opportunity cost. So if we keep on leaving less and less units of good Y to get 1 unit of good X, this is called decreasing opportunity cost. So the moment when we are leaving less and less units of one good for getting 1 unit of the other good, this basically provides us the idea about decreasing or declining or diminishing opportunity cost. Uh, okay. In case of decreasing opportunity cost, the resultant curve is always in convex shape. You have already read about indifference curve. Within that, what we were doing, we were getting 1 unit of X and we were leaving less and less units of Y because the income of the consumer remained same. Therefore, when we plot indifference curve, we get an indifference curve in convex shape. I mean the lower part of the circle. So if I draw or construct a schedule based upon the definition, so we would get this schedule. Okay, so this schedule is exactly the similar as we had in case of indifference curve. Let me get back you to the Excel sheet so that we can understand the concept of convex shaped curve. Okay, this is the increasing opportunity cost or concave shaped curve. Let me modify this table again. We had in the first combination 1 and 18, 2 units of X along with uh, 13 units of Y, then 9 units of Y, then 6 units of Y, then 4 units of Y, and finally 3 units of Y. So this concept is basically shows you the concept of decreasing opportunity cost. So decreasing opportunity cost or a convex shaped curve. So if I copy this graph, convex shaped graph. So this convex shaped graph basically reveals a concept of decreasing opportunity cost. Therefore, this is exactly the same as we had in case of indifference curve. So let me copy this graph from here and let me paste it upon the Word file that I show you earlier. Let me show it to you again. Now look at this Word file. You would come to know that this is the graph that we had into the Excel file, and you could see that all the values, I mean all the combinations, if we combined all the combinations in a graph, we obtain a line which is a curvilinear shape, and it is revealing the lower part of the circle which is convex shaped curve, and it is come into being due to decreasing opportunity cost, as we are getting 1 unit of X and we are leaving less and less units of Y. So you could see that from point 18 to 13, the difference is -5. From 13 to 9, the difference is -4. From 9 to 6, the difference is -3. And from 6 to 4, the difference is -2. And from 4 to 3, the difference is -1. Over the time, the difference is continuously falling in absolute terms. And finally, the concept of indifference, the third type of opportunity cost is about constant opportunity cost, and the definition is is slightly modified by changing these two words. These three words. Initially, we had more and more word over here, so the type was increasing opportunity cost. But when we had less and less words over here within this statement, the resultant opportunity cost became decreasing opportunity cost. But when we have words like same and same, then this show that uh, the resultant opportunity cost is constant, meaning that whenever we are obtaining 1 unit of X, if we leave more and more units of Y, then this type of opportunity cost is um, increasing opportunity cost. And when we plot it into the graph, we obtain upper part of the circle, which is concave shaped graph. But when we get 1 unit of X and we leave less and less units of Y, then this type of opportunity cost is called as decreasing opportunity cost, and resultant curve is convex shaped curve. And when we get 1 unit of X and we leave same units of good Y each time, then the resultant opportunity cost is constant opportunity cost. And when we draw that opportunity cost in a graph shape, then we always obtain straight line. So let me share with you this schedule again, and then we will keep this schedule with us to plot it on a graph paper. So here we are leaving initially the difference between 18 and 15 is -3. Then from 15 to 12, -3. Then from 12 to 9, -3. Then -3, and then -3, right? Let me copy these two columns from here and let me paste it into the Excel sheet. Let me show you Excel sheet again. This is an Excel sheet, and let me paste the values over here again. So if I plot or paste all the previous values over here, then you could see that this is a straight line shaped graph, or it is a concept of constant opportunity cost. Let me copy this graph from here and let me paste it into the Word file. Let me share that document with you again. Let me paste the graph over here, and now you could see that the resultant graph is in straight line shape. So these are the three different concepts of opportunity cost, and let me share with you that out of these types, the most relevant type for the concept of indifference curve is decreasing opportunity cost. If somebody raises a question that just tell us that why an indifference curve is convex to the origin, you would answer that since a consumer is facing the concept of diminishing opportunity cost, or if you relate it with or if you could add more economics into it, then you would say that since the marginal rate of substitution of good X for good Y is continuously falling, therefore the resultant curve is convex in shape. Let me share with you over here. Look at the value of MRS, marginal rate of substitution of good X for good Y. It is initially -4, then -3, then -2, then -1. This shows that since marginal rate of substitution is falling in absolute terms, or if you see this column, let me highlight it, this column, the fourth last column, the marginal rate of substitution of good X for good Y is initially 4 in absolute terms, then it became 3, then 2, then 1, right? So MRS is falling continuously. Therefore, if we plot this curve, I mean the curve which which comes into being because of falling MRS, this will be in convex shape. So falling MRS is also called as decreasing opportunity cost. So because of falling MRS or continuous decrease in MRS, therefore the indifference curve is convex to the origin. तो आसान जुबान में इनडिफरेंस कर्व कॉन्वेक्स इसलिए होता है क्योंकि एमआरएस मुसलसल फॉल करता रहता है. तो अगर एमआरएस मुसलसल बढ़ना शुरू हो जाए तो कर्व जो है वो कॉनकेव हो जाएगा. अगर एमआरएस मुसलसल सेम रहे तो कर्व स्ट्रेट लाइन हो जाएगा. यहाँ हमारे केस में चूंकि एमआरएस मुसलसल फॉल कर रहा है, इसी वजह से इंडिफरेंस कर्व कॉन्वेक्स टू दी ओरिजिन है. अब मैं प्रॉपर्टीज ऑफ इंडिफरेंस कर्व की तरफ चल रहा हूँ. अच्छा जी, एमआरएस में ऑलरेडी लास्ट क्लास में भी एक्सप्लेन किया था, मैं दोबारा इसको पढ़ देता हूँ. व्हाट इज एमआरएस? बेसिकली ये क्या है जी, डेल्टा वाई और डेल्टा एक्स की रेशो है. सो द रेशो ऑफ चेंज इन यूनिट्स ऑफ वाई टू द चेंज इन यूनिट्स ऑफ एक्स इज कॉल्ड एज marginal rate of substitution of good X for good Y, or marginal rate of substitution of good X for good Y shows that how many units of one good, say Y, a consumer wants to sacrifice to obtain an extra unit of second good, say good X, or it shows the changing rate at which consumer is ready to leave units of good Y to get an extra unit of good X. तो ये एक्चुअली अगर आप इसको अपॉर्चुनिटी कॉस्ट के कॉन्सेप्ट से रिलेट करें तो आपको समझ आ जाएगी कि एमआरएस एक्चुअली है क्या. एमआरएस क्या है? आसान जुबान में हम वाई के यूनिट सैक्रिफाइस करके एक्स का यूनिट ऑब्टेन कर रहे हैं और इस एक्सप्रेशन की आपस में रेशो ली गई है. As MRS of X for Y is continuously decreasing, therefore the indifference curve will be convex in shape. We also call MRS XY as a slope of indifference curve. और इसका फॉर्मूला ये स्क्रीन पे लिखा हुआ है. अच्छा जी, ये अल्टीमेट रिजल्ट जो है जिसको मैं हाईलाइट कर रहा हूँ, ये क्या है जी, माइनस MUX डिवाइडेड बाय MUY. ये रिजल्ट यहाँ हम ड्राइव नहीं करेंगे, मैंने फाइनल रिजल्ट लिख दिया है कि डेल्टा वाई ओवर डेल्टा एक्स. अगर इसको सिंप्लीफाई करोगे तो ये आंसर आएगा. तो मैं इसको सिंप्लीफाई, मैंने इसकी सिंप्लीफाइड फॉर्म यहाँ मेंशन कर दी है. डेरिवेशन जरा एडवांस लेवल कॉन्सेप्ट है, यहाँ हमारा चूंकि बिगिनर्स का कोर्स है इसलिए यहाँ मैं उसको डिस्कस नहीं कर रहा हूँ. अगर आप कहेंगे किसी स्टूडेंट को जरूरत पड़ेगी तो फिर उसको ड्रॉ करके यानी ड्राइव करके दिखा देंगे. अच्छा जी, और अगर मैं ड्राइव करूंगा तो डेफिनेटली फिर वो मेरे कोर्स का हिस्सा होगा और मैं उसको एग्जाम में भी पूछूंगा. अच्छा जी, अगला इसमें है जी, अगर मैं थोड़ी सी वैल्यू अपडेट कर दूं, यानी अगर मैं यहाँ पे फॉर्मूले में लिख दूं जी, मुझे एमआरएस ऑफ एक्स फॉर वाई के बजाय ऑफ वाई फॉर एक्स चाहिए. ऑफ जहां होगा वो आपकी गेन है और जहां फॉर होगा वो आपकी कॉस्ट है. तो यहाँ हम ऑफ वाई का मतलब क्या है कि y गेन कर रहे हैं, तो अब y डिनोमिनेटर में चला जाएगा, और फॉर x यानी जिसकी कॉस्ट पे कर रहे हैं वो न्यूमिनेटर में आ जाएगा. तो डेल्टा x यानी कॉस्ट डिवाइडेड बाय गेन, वो क्या जी, डेल्टा y. तो फॉर्मूला रिवर्ट हो जाएगा, माइनस पहले ऑफ एक्स फॉर वाई था तो एम यू एक्स ओवर एम यू वाई, अब ऑफ वाई फॉर एक्स है तो ये एम यू वाई ओवर एम यू एक्स, और स्टार्ट में साइन नेगेटिव आ गया क्योंकि इन डिफरेंस कर्व की स्लोप नेगेटिव होती है। द रीजन इज एम आर एस जो है वो कॉन्टिन्यूसली फॉल करता रहता है। क्यों? क्योंकि इनकम कांस्टेंट है। अब आ जाए जी कॉन्सेप्ट पर, प्रॉपर्टीज ऑफ इंडिफरेंस कर्व। मैं सबसे पहली प्रॉपर्टी पर चलता हूं जी। इंडिफरेंस कर्व की स्लोप जो है वो नेगेटिव होती है, दे स्लोप नेगेटिवली और स्लोप डाउनवर्ड्स फ्रॉम लेफ्ट टू द राइट। तो ये बड़ी कैटेगोरिकल स्टेटमेंट है जी कि इंडिफरेंस कर्व को अगर आप इसके शेप को ऑब्जर्व करें तो आपको नजर आएगा यहाँ से जो कॉन्वेक्स शेप्ड कर्व है, या ये शेप आपके सामने आ गई जी इंडिफरेंस कर्व की। तो ये अगर पॉइंट 18 लेफ्ट साइड पे है तो पॉइंट 3 जो है ये कॉम्बिनेशन राइट की तरफ जा रहा है। तो 18 से 3 तक जो मूवमेंट है वो लेफ्ट से राइट की तरफ मूवमेंट है और है टुवर्ड्स डाउनवर्ड डायरेक्शन। ठीक है जी। तो यही बात वो यहाँ समझाने की कोशिश कर रहा है प्रॉपर्टी के अंदर कि इंडिफरेंस कर्व की जो स्लोप है वो क्या है जी, नेगेटिव स्लोप है। इसी तरह दूसरा पॉइंट है जी, दे आर कॉन्वेक्स टू द ओरिजिन ऑफ एक्सिस। सो यही बात अभी थोड़ी देर पहले मैं काफी डिटेल में आपके साथ डिस्कस कर रहा था कि इंडिफरेंस कर्व कॉन्वेक्स टू द ओरिजिन होता है। क्यों होता है जी जनाबे वाला? बिकॉज लॉ ऑफ डिमिनिशिंग मार्जिनल रेट ऑफ सब्सटीट्यूशन इस पर अप्लाई होता है। व्हाट इज लॉ ऑफ डिमिनिशिंग मार्जिनल रेट ऑफ सब्सटीट्यूशन? एक ऐसा लॉ जिसमें मार्जिनल रेट ऑफ सब्सटीट्यूशन यानी एक ऐसा रेट जिसमें सब्सटीट्यूशन टेक प्लेस कर रही हो वो मुसलसल क्या हो रही हो, फॉल हो रही हो इन एब्सोल्यूट टर्म्स। सो रेट ऑफ सब्सटीट्यूशन क्या थी जी? एक प्रोडक्ट के एक यूनिट को गेन करने के लिए दूसरी प्रोडक्ट के कुछ यूनिट्स को सैक्रिफाइस करना या एक्सचेंज करना। तो चूंकि वो सैक्रिफाइस मुसलसल कम हो रही थी तो लिहाजा रेट ऑफ सब्सटीट्यूशन में चेंज आ रहा था, लेकिन वो चेंज क्या था जी? कम होने वाला, नेगेटिव। सो इसको कहते हैं डिमिनिशिंग मार्जिनल रेट ऑफ सब्सटीट्यूशन। एक ऐसा लॉ जिसमें मार्जिनल रेट ऑफ सब्सटीट्यूशन मुसलसल फॉल करे उसे डिमिनिशिंग मार्जिनल रेट ऑफ सब्सटीट्यूशन कहते हैं। और इसकी वजह से इन डिफरेंस कर्व को जब प्लॉट किया जाता है तो वो कॉन्वेक्स शेप का होता है। ठीक है जी। और आसान जुबान में मैं ऑलरेडी बता चुका हूं कि डिक्रीजिंग अपॉर्चुनिटी कॉस्ट सिंपली रीजन है इंडिफरेंस कर्व के कॉन्वेक्स होने की। फिर है जी इंडिफरेंस कर्व टू द राइट रिप्रेजेंट्स हायर लेवल ऑफ सेटिस्फेक्शन। अब आपको याद होगा लास्ट क्लास में मैंने आपको एक इंडिफरेंस कर्व का ग्राफ शो किया था जो कि ये दिखा रहा था कि अगर कंज्यूमर की इनकम अपग्रेड हो जाए यानी आई ए से इंक्रीज करके आई बी हो जाए, एंड इफ income is increased then utility function will be upgraded. It will be upgraded from UA to UB. So the moment when utility function is upgraded, then the level of satisfaction of the consumer will increase. This will be KB instead of KA. So we would conclude that when income of the consumer increases, the indifference curve will be shifted upward and the new indifference curve will show higher level of satisfaction. So if you could see this particular graph, IC1 shows that it is an old indifference curve. It is based upon income 1, and new indifference curve is IC2, which is relatively parallel and upward if it is compared with IC1. And new IC is the result of increase in income from I1 to I2. So I2 income is relatively higher than that of I1. Say I1 is equals to 20,000 and I2 is equals to 40,000. At 20,000 we are enjoying indifference curve IC1. Therefore the utility function upon IC1 will be U1 and level of satisfaction should be K1. But if income is increased from 20,000 to 40,000, so at new income the indifference curve is new and utility function will also be upgraded and it should be U2, and U2 will be higher than U1. Therefore on indifference curve IC2 we should have a new level of satisfaction which should be K2, and K2 level of satisfaction should be higher than that of K1 level of satisfaction. And imagine if the income is decreased, the case will be revert. I mean, whatever we have discussed over here, it will be vice versa. In case if income of the consumer is decreased from 20,000 to 10,000, the indifference curve will be shifted inward parallel to IC1, and the new indifference curve should be IC0 or maybe IC3. When indifference curve is shifted downward, it shows that indifference curve shows lower level of satisfaction, and at lower level of indifference curve, the utility function will be outdated. It should be U3, and at U3, the level of satisfaction is K3, and when income I3 is less than I1, therefore utility function is less than utility function 1, and level of satisfaction K3 is less than level of satisfaction K1. Acha ji, if I would move to property number 4, this is very important property. Remember my words in your mind that indifference curve will never intersect or tangent to any other indifference curve. Let me repeat my statement again. Indifference curve will never intersect or tangent to any other indifference curve. The reason is that at one time we are basically discussing the indifference curves of the same income group people, but when we mix up the indifference curves of different income grouped people, during that scenario, the indifference curve could intersect each other. But at one time, we are following the same algorithm, like we are plotting the indifference curve of the same income grouped people. Therefore, indifference curves will never intersect each other. But it does not mean that they can intersect. They cannot intersect. As I said earlier, that when we graph indifference curves of two income group people in one graph, then those indifference curves can intersect each other. But in reality, indifference curve, this is, I mean, the property of an indifference curve is that indifference curve will never intersect each other. If they do, then they will be negating, or uh, they will be dissatisfying the property of indifference curve. So in reality, indifference curves do not intersect each other. Similarly, if indifference curve is tangent at one point, like if you could see this graph upon your screens, you could see that indifference curve 2 is tangent upon indifference curve 1 at point C. We all know that the common point C is showing that whatever the level of satisfaction is upon IC1, it is the same upon IC2. Do you agree with this statement? We are we have already studied that every new indifference curve comes into being after changing the level of income of the consumer. So when the income of the consumer is changed, the indifference curve is changed. And if we keep this statement with us as an assumption, then what happens? Then this happens that the indifference curve will never tangent to the other indifference curve. The reason is कि जब एक इंडिफरेंस कर्व दूसरे को टेंजेंट करता है, तो वो ये बता रहा है कि एक पॉइंट पर एक लेवल ऑफ सेटिस्फेक्शन हो गया, जहां लेवल ऑफ सेटिस्फेक्शन सेम है वहां इनकम सेम है. तो दोनों इंडिफरेंस कर्व दो डिफरेंट इनकम्स के रिजल्ट्स में ड्रॉ हुए हैं. तो जब इनकम लेवल चेंज हो गई तो लेवल ऑफ सेटिस्फेक्शन चेंज हो जाएगा. सो जब लेवल ऑफ सेटिस्फेक्शन चेंज हो जाएगा तो इंडिफरेंस कर्व एक दूसरे को टेंजेंट कर नहीं सकते. सो कॉमन पॉइंट सी जो है, ये बेसिकली क्या बता रहा है? ये बता रहा है कि जो लेवल ऑफ सेटिस्फेक्शन इंडिफरेंस कर्व 1 पे है, वही लेवल ऑफ सेटिस्फेक्शन इंडिफरेंस कर्व 2 पर है, जो कि रियलिटी में पॉसिबल नहीं है, बिकॉज दो इंडिफरेंस कर्व दो डिफरेंट इनकम्स की सूरत में ड्रॉ होते हैं. सो लिहाजा ये रियलिटी में ग्राफ ट्रू नहीं है, ये जस्ट हमें अंडरस्टैंड करवाने के लिए ड्रॉ किया गया है. और अगर मैं IC1 पर डिफरेंट पॉइंट्स प्लॉट करूंगा तो IC1 के डिफरेंट पॉइंट्स पर लेवल ऑफ सेटिस्फेक्शन सेम होगा. IC2 के अपने डिफरेंट पॉइंट्स के ऊपर वहां पर जो न्यू लेवल ऑफ सेटिस्फेक्शन होगा वो सेम होगा। लेकिन ये कहा जाए कि IC2 और IC1 का लेवल ऑफ सेटिस्फेक्शन सेम है, ये मानने में नहीं आता। क्यों? क्योंकि दोनों डिफरेंट इनकम्स के रिजल्ट में ड्रॉ होंगे। अब हम ये पिछली प्रॉपर्टी पढ़ के आए हैं कि हायर इंडिफरेंस कर्व शोज हायर लेवल ऑफ सेटिस्फेक्शन एंड वाइस वर्सा क्या है जी, लोअर लेवल ऑफ इंडिफरेंस कर्व शोज लोअर लेवल ऑफ सेटिस्फेक्शन। कहीं तो अब देखे ना, ए और बी पॉइंट्स हैं IC1 IC2 पर, तो IC2 का पॉइंट ए IC1 के पॉइंट बी से सुपीरियर है, ठीक है, वो जैसा कि विजिबल है। लेकिन जब पॉइंट सी पे जाते हैं वहां दोनों का लेवल ऑफ सेटिस्फेक्शन सेम हो जाता है। तो जब देखें सी पॉइंट IC1 पे है और सी पॉइंट ही IC2 पे है, तो हमें पता है कि इन डिफरेंस कर्व के एक पॉइंट से आखिरी पॉइंट तक लेवल ऑफ सेटिस्फेक्शन सेम रहता है। जैसे जो लेवल ऑफ सेटिस्फेक्शन सी पे है वही IC2 के पॉइंट ए पे होगा, ठीक होगी ना बात। इसी तरह जो लेवल ऑफ सेटिस्फेक्शन सी पे है वही IC1 के लेवल ऑफ जो पॉइंट बी है वहीं पर वही सेम लेवल ऑफ सेटिस्फेक्शन होगा। तो जब लेवल ऑफ सेटिस्फेक्शन सेम था तो ए और बी का लेवल ऑफ सेटिस्फेक्शन भी सेम होना चाहिए। ये क्यों डिफरेंट है? लिहाजा समझ में ये बात आती है कि भाईजान इन डिफरेंस कर्व्स आपस में एक दूसरे को टेंजेंट नहीं कर सकते, तो लिहाजा ये आइडिया समझना जरूरी था। अच्छा जी, अब इसके बाद ये भी बात ध्यान में रखें कि इंडिफरेंस कर्व्स कैन नेवर इंटरसेक्ट ईच अदर, ठीक होगी बात। अगली है जी प्रॉपर्टी, इंडिफरेंस कर्व्स आर नॉट नेसेसरीली पैरेलल टू ईच अदर। जब सेम इनकम ग्रुप्स के इंडिफरेंस कर्व्स को आप प्लॉट करेंगे दे मे बी पैरेलल टू ईच अदर, ठीक है। जब डिफरेंट इनकम ग्रुप्स के इंडिफरेंस कर्व्स को प्लॉट करेंगे तो फिर पॉसिबली वो एक दूसरे के पैरेलल नहीं हो सकते, क्योंकि हमें पता है कि जो हायर इनकम ग्रुप्स के लोग होते हैं उनके इंडिफरेंस कर्व्स रिलेटिवली फ्लैट होते हैं, यानी उनकी टेंडेंसी ज्यादा एक्स एक्सिस की तरफ झुकी होती है। जो लेस इनकम वाले लोग होते हैं उनके इंडिफरेंस कर्व्स रिलेटिवली स्टीप होते हैं। स्टीप का मतलब है रिलेटिवली लेस इलास्टिक होते हैं। लेस इलास्टिक यानी इनका झुकाव ज्यादा वाई एक्सिस की तरफ होता है, यानी वाई एक्स इनका झुकाव जब वाई एक्सिस की तरफ ज्यादा होगा तो ये मोर और लेस इनकी लाइन एग्जैक्ट वर्टिकल नहीं होगी, लेकिन ऐसा लगता होगा कि वर्टिकल के क्लोज है। जबकि स्टीप वाले कर्व्स जो होते हैं वो ऐसा नहीं लगता कि वो पैरेलल टू द एक्स एक्सिस है, लेकिन क्लोज होते हैं उनके, एग्जैक्टली वैसे नहीं होते लेकिन क्लोज होते हैं। बेंड ज्यादा चूंकि एक्स एक्सिस की तरफ है ना, मोर इलास्टिक है, और जो बेंड ज्यादा वाई एक्सिस की तरफ होते हैं वो लेस इलास्टिक होते हैं। सो पैरेलल नहीं हो सकते। तो वो उस सूरत में है जब आप डिफरेंट इनकम ग्रुप्स के लोगों के डिफरेंस कर्व को एक ग्राफ में प्लॉट करेंगे। जब आप सेम इनकम ग्रुप्स के लोगों के डिफरेंस कर्व्स को एक जगह पे प्लॉट करेंगे तो वो एग्जैक्टली पैरेलल होंगे तकरीबन, जैसा कि ये इस ग्राफ में आपको यहाँ नजर आ रहा है। ये आप इस ग्राफ को देखें, ये कर्व्स दोनों आपस में पैरेलल है, ठीक होगी बात। तो यही सूरत हाल है। और लास्ट है जी, इन रियलिटी इन डिफरेंस कर्व्स आर लाइक बैंगल्स। अब ये आपको जो मैंने सर्कल का कॉन्सेप्ट क्लियर किया था, तो सर्कल का कौन सा कंपोनेंट है जी? बैंगल्स को आप देखें वो भी सर्कल शेप्ड की होती है, राउंड शेप की होती है। तो बैंगल का एक्चुअली कंप्लीट बैंगल तो नहीं, बैंगल का लोअर पार्ट जो कि कॉन्वेक्स टू दी ओरिजिन है, जिसपे एम और एस मुसलसल फॉल हो रहा है, दर हकीकत वो कॉन्सेप्ट है। ठीक है जी, मेरा लेक्चर आज प्रॉपर्टीज तक यहाँ मैं इसको कंप्लीट कर रहा हूँ। अगर किसी पार्टिसिपेंट की कोई क्यूरी है तो प्लीज अपनी क्यूरी मुझसे डिस्कस कर लें, और कोई बात पूछना चाहें तो जरूर पूछें। एक मिनट जी। जी मिस आफिया।
सर ये पैरेलल वाले पॉइंट की समझ नहीं आई, जैसे ये बैंगल्स वाला है तो सर इसमें पैरेलल ही है, फिर ऊपर वाले पॉइंट में क्यों कहा कि पैरेलल नहीं हो सकते?
आ रही है
सर अब आ रही है?
जी जी प्लीज बोलें।
सर ये जो बैंगल्स वाला है इसमें पैरेलल है, तो फिर ऊपर ये क्यों कहा है कि पैरेलल नहीं हो सकते? ये पैरेलल वाला पॉइंट समझ नहीं आया।
मैंने अभी काफी डिटेल में एक्सप्लेन किया है कि पैरेलल जब सेम इनकम ग्रुप्स होंगे तो पैरेलल होते हैं, जब इनकम ग्रुप्स डिफरेंट हो जाएंगे तो फिर पैरेलल नहीं होते। तो मैंने कहा कि जिनकी हाई इनकम होती हैं उनके इंडिफरेंस कर्व रिलेटिवली फ्लैट शेप होते हैं, यानी मोर इलास्टिक होते हैं, यानी उनकी टेंडेंसी ज्यादा एक्स एक्सिस के अलोंग बेंड होती है। जो लेस इनकम लोग अगर उनके इंडिफरेंस कर्व्स को प्लॉट करें तो उनकी टेंडेंसी लेस इलास्टिक होती है, उनकी शेप लेस इलास्टिक होती है, और वो ज्यादा बेंड हुए होते हैं टुवर्ड्स वाई एक्सिस। ठीक है, तो यूं वो दोनों आपस में पैरेलल नहीं होते। आम रूटीन में जब हम इंडिफरेंस कर्व्स को प्लॉट करते हैं, चूंकि वो सेम इनकम ग्रुप्स के इंडिफरेंस कर्व्स होते हैं, इसीलिए वो पैरेलल होते हैं। ठीक है, तो ये बात मैं कह रहा था। तो यहाँ ये पैरेलल है, और ये मैंने आगे भी आपको अभी थोड़ी देर पहले ऊपर ग्राफ में भी दिखाया कि ये देखें IC1 और IC2 को अगर आप गौर से देखेंगी तो यहाँ आपको नजर आ रहा होगा कि ये इंडिफरेंस कर्व जो है ये भी पैरेलल है।
Yes.
तो क्योंकि ये भी सेम इनकम ग्रुप के लोगों के इंडिफरेंस कर्व्स हैं। और कोई क्वेश्चन?
नहीं सर, बस यही। और सर ये कहना था, ये जो आपने भी ग्राफ्स बनाए हैं जिस डॉक्यूमेंट से आप भी पढ़ा रहे हैं, तो सर ये मेल कर दीजिएगा।
इंशाल्लाह अज़्ज़वजल, जरूर।
ओके सर, थैंक यू।
ओके जी। We have one more question from Miss Zoya. जी Miss Zoya. No question? ओके जी, थैंक यू वेरी मच। मेरी तरफ से लेक्चर हो गया जी कंप्लीट। इंशाल्लाह रिमेनिंग डिस्कशन वी विल मेड और कैरी इट आउट इन द नेक्स्ट क्लास। सो वी विल बी स्टार्टिंग अप the new lecture from budget line or price line or income line. We are left with I guess 1 or maybe 2 lectures upon this topic, and afterwards the concept will be completed about ordinal view of consumer equilibrium, right? Thank you very much. Have a safe time. Stay blessed. Allah Hafiz.